How's
All
everybody
right.
doing? Can you hear
We're
me?
officially live. Yeah.
All right.
So for anybody that is just tuning in, so this is the first forever, I said that 3 times this week, first forever episode of Talk Creative to Me, which I made up that name. So if you hate it, that's fine. I like it. I thought it was very quirky and unique. So I'm sticking with it. I love it. So the idea is just to talk to creatives. So it's a show, for creatives by creatives. And I have a panel, amazing panel of amazing people. And we're missing one. We're missing Tina Trimpert with the Psychedelic Podcast and part of Indie Pods, but she's not feeling well. So let's send her some, well wishes. But we are coming to you from all over the place. So I'm coming from Ohio. Actually, I'm sitting in my house right now in the middle of nowhere. So hopefully my internet hangs on. So I was hoping. I'll let everybody kind of go. We'll go, Zack. I'll let you go to introduce yourself, and then Jeff, and then we do have our guest today, Mick Manhattan of the Scenesnob podcast. So Zack, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, right on. My name is Zack Wiseman. I'm the founder and co-host of everything that Some Nobodies does. You can find everything at somenobodies.com. I am currently based in Boulder County, Colorado, which is where me and my partner Dylan do all of our shows. So yeah, I'm excited to be on here, and I feel that I am creative.
Very nice.
That was great. I loved it.
All right. I'll take over from there. Thanks, Zack. I am Jeff the Shark Perini. I am the founder and host of The Yo Show, which comes on every Wednesday night live at 8 p.m. We stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Myself and my partner, Miss Jewel Tatey, who cannot be with us today. You can find us at www.theyoshow215.com. 215 obviously is for our filling angle. And we are a variety entertainment talk show. We have fun. We drink some beer, and it's all nonsense all the time.
Creative nonsense. We have to say that we're creative like a ridiculous amount of times.
Extremely creative nonsense.
That's definitely the brand. But there you go.
So,
all right, and then like we mentioned, Tina Trimpert with Psychedelic Podcast is also on the panel and is unable to be here today. So Jeff Dwowskin is up here saying hey to everybody. And Mick, I want you to go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself and about your show, and then we're just going to talk creative. I don't know. We're making this up today.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is awesome. I love it. And I do love the name, so don't change it. I'm Mick Manhattan. I run the Scenesnobs.com, which is a channel of podcasts. We have 15 shows right now that are broadcast live or pre-recorded daily. I host the Scenesnobs podcast live is my main show. I do every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. But I also have BTB podcast, Pulling Focus podcast. I host the Scenesnobs interviews and reviews. So I have about 8 shows right now I host with all different themes. We try to be as creative as possible on them. I can't promise that I am, but I do maintain as a moderator, I think, fairly well. I leave the talent up to the talented people.
That's awesome. So for people that have no idea what it means, I had one person ask me, what is it? What do you mean for creatives by creatives? What does that even mean? So, I thought it would be kind of interesting to find out what your definition of creative is. I know what the definition is. We can all Google it on the dictionary, but what's your definition of creative, personally? So we'll just start with you, Mick, since you're the guest, and then we'll go to Zack and Jeff.
My definition of creative is just anything put together with imagination. I feel like if it has imagination in it, it can be anything. It could be a scientific, experiment, anything like that. It can be art, movies, all of that jazz. But if you have some imagination into it, which we see every day, then to me that's being creative. It's putting something together that's useful, whether it's just beautiful to look at or something that helps us in our everyday lives. But as long as there's imagination in it, that's the most important key, I think.
That's awesome. I love that. Jeff, you want to go? Or Zack, one of you?
I'll dive in, I guess. Pretty much my creative is, in my opinion, trusting your brain's vision, because I always have a lot of visions and things I love to do. And granted, it's hard sometimes with a basic layout like this to get overly, imaginative, but I always have a vision in my head that I want people to see or like, or what I think they might laugh at or something silly. So the one thing I always talk about with my partner Jewel is never be afraid to be creative. Never be afraid to say something extra hilarious or wear something silly. Or and if you ever watch my show, I do whatever it takes to just be crazy, from dressing like a Smurf to dressing like Santa Claus to the Red Devil, whatever it takes. And so pretty much to me, it's just whatever you imagine in your mind that you think you can put out and draw people in.
Nice.
I like it.
Yeah.
Good.
No, I completely agree with the last two. Using your imagination and turning something from nothing. You create something, whether it's a story or a piece of art or a podcast, that is using your imagination and then willing something into existence, which I think is what creativity is. It's producing something with your brain that did not exist before.
Absolutely. And I agree with all of you all. I mean, I do. I think that, to me, it's all the things that you all said, kind of thinking outside of the box, not really applying any rules and just breathing things into life. And that's kind of, I've always kind of been a rebel, on things. I know, Jeff, you're laughing because you're probably pretty shocked by that, because me and Jeff have figured out that we're like the same person. It's actually terrifying.
They're male and female each other. I don't know how that keeps neighbors. It really is.
It's really terrifying. So it's like, I guess it's a good thing that we didn't actually like find each other in this world, because if we had ended up like together as a couple, it would have been bad things, I'm sure. Not
enough bail money, I think, to save our lives.
It would have been bad. It would have been bad. Yeah. Like my husband has to keep me at bay. But anyway, yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just that very existence of being able to, no holds bar, breathe things into life that, like you said, Zach, that didn't exist before. And maybe that existed before, but you're kind of looking at it from a different angle or from a different perspective. And, I think that's kind of, to me, as a creative person, I think that is literally the basis of life, is being able to take your perspective of whatever it is, whether it's like tangible art or, something else, just the idea, and, kind of proving the concept or showing what you can do with it. And I don't know, I love it. I think there's a lot of people that don't consider themselves a creative, and when you talk to them, they just, it's almost like it's like this like language barrier between the term. I don't know if you all have noticed that or not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we do a lot with musicians, and I call them artists, like, and some of them chuckle, like, art. I'm like, yeah, to me it's art. Like, music is art, painting is art, writing is art. Anything that you do creatively to put it out there for people to enjoy is art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, we talk to people all the time, and people are always like, "Oh, I'm not that creative. How do you guys create these shows? How do you do this?" But all creativity is a passion in a direction. And your creative could be just a thing that you do for work. You could just have such a passion for work that you choose and find different creative ways of making your job easier for yourself. Or for me, it's creating shows and creating ideas. But all that really is just a passion and an exploration of that passion. That's all creativity is, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. So taking it kind of a step farther, like I do want to kind of lay the foundation, obviously, with this being the first Talk Creative to Me show, of why I really felt the push to do this show. And, one of the reasons, obviously, is COVID has sucked for all the people, but for a lot of people in the creative space, it's been even more crushing, because a lot of, especially when you're talking like musicians and comedians and people that literally were in front of people to do their art, their creative, and for a lot of people that was their job as well, not being able to be in front of people has been not only hard financially on a lot of these people, but, for all of you and all of you that are listening, that are also creatives, it's literally a part of your identity. So when you can't do it anymore, it's like you're missing like a piece of yourself. And that's hard to kind of manage, and hard to deal with. And so, my thought was, bring people on the show that are also creatives, allow them to chat with us, because we're fabulous, of course. So allow them to chat with us and to be able to talk a little bit about what they do. And then if they want to teach something about what they do, if they want to give a descriptor, if they want whatever, just give them a platform to be able to do that. And I really, really, really would like to see this turn into some virtual events, to be able to give them that platform, to be able to perform, to be able to, whatever, because again, when that's a piece of yourself, you have to give that creative art away to those other people for you to kind of feel fulfilled. That's been kind of hard for people to kind of manage here lately. So Mick, I want you to go ahead and tell a little bit, since you are the guest today. So I want you to kind of tell us a little bit, about not only your show, but about the why of your show. I really love hearing people's whys, their stories, their purpose, their, all that.
Well, I mean, to kind of start from the beginning, I guess, this is my 10th year podcasting.
Wow. Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Awesome.
I started out, I was a filmmaker for a long time. I started out as an actor. Well, I should say I started out as an actor and worked in the theater. And then I was trying to parlay that into getting into filmmaking behind the camera. I finally did. I went to film school, did that. I worked in Los Angeles, New York for a long time as a producer. That's where I found my love and passion for it. And then I got out of it and I started doing more work in social media marketing, early days. Like, people just weren't used to using it at that point. And I just saw a lot of use for it. And a friend of mine had a movie review site where he had a bunch of writers come in, and they would also do videos for it. But he was telling me about a podcast, and I was like, I don't know anything about it, So it was called MarioLikesMovies.com was the thing. So I went in as a writer, and I was helping him with video work and social media. And we started podcasting. And I sort of started finding with podcasting, it's not just people talking into a microphone. There's a storytelling there. You pick your topics, you go by it, your strength, who has their strengths and weaknesses, and where that, in what. And a good moderator can differentiate, like what question goes to who and where. And I started picking up more and more about it. And as we kept going on, I started reading more about it. I wound up leaving that site, still very good friends with all of them to this day, but I moved to Virginia, and I kind of got out of it. And I met up with another friend of mine down here who had a radio show, and I had no idea. I had guested on it a couple of times when I moved down here, talked about filmmaking. And then he's like, I want to move on. Him and another guy, they're like, we want to move on. We want to create our own show, because it was a lot. It was tough at the time. And I was like, all right. So we did that for 5 years. It was called Mystery Elephant Podcast. And, it was rough for the first go. We had a weekly podcast, and it was just comedy show. By the end, we were at 100,000 downloads a month. We were sponsors. We were syndicated on other channels. We were doing really well. And I loved it. And I was not the moderator. I was just one of the guys on there. I had an identity. And I think that was the most important thing I found from all the podcasts, is like, you have to create an identity for yourself, and you have to stick to that identity, because that's your character. You can be true to yourself, you can be genuine, but you have to have a character that draws people in. Like Mick Manhattan, not my real name, but everybody everybody knows. But it's a good grabber. People see Mick Manhattan and they're like, wow, that's an awesome name. And I'm just like, thank you. And it's a good conversation starter. So that's my character now. That's who, and you kind of become your character as you do this more and more, because they both shine through. But I did that podcast for 5 years. It had a falling out. I didn't control the producing side of it. I did the social media and stuff. So when it had the falling out of, one of the guys was going through a rough divorce at the time, and he just couldn't do it. And he owned all the equipment, everything, the studio, and it fell apart. So for me, I was like, awesome. I put my heart and soul into this for 5 years. We built this into a business, and now it's all falling apart. So that's when I was like, I'm doing this again, but I'm doing this for myself. I'm going to build my own channel. I'm going to, podcasters that come on, I want them to have a safe haven when they come in. They're not getting charged to be on a channel. I can help them promote. I can help them produce by being here and throwing the switches if I need to, or putting up the banners and stuff, so they can just focus on what they need to do. Or they can just come in and show their show and have another outlet. But I can also create shows and content for it that I want to see work, and I can bring in talented people that I care about. One of the guys on the Scenesnob podcast, which is our flagship show, he was one of the other guys on Mystery Elephant. We got together and we were just like, let's do this. We always worked well together, and since he joined, it's just been a fantastic ride. So that's where it all started for me. But more and more I'm learning, especially with the groups that we're in. Finding out there's more than one way to do this. And I think that's the important thing. It's like I don't find there's really a wrong way to do this. You can always learn something.
Yeah.
We had talked about it, Maria, when you had Jewel and myself on Successfully Chaotic. Me and her got together and I said, look, rule book, take the rule book, rip it in half and throw it out. And because it's fun. We don't do factual pounding in your face kind of topics. We do funny stuff, and we want our audience to learn about the musician or the actress. Like, we want their heart and soul, not like, hey, what's your view on Bill Smith stuff, but hey, what's your view on life? Like, what drives you, what grooves you in the music and stuff like that. So I said, take the rule book, throw it out. We're going to do it our way, which is random talk. Sometimes we talk over each other. Sometimes we get disgusted at the things each other says. I'm the big mouth pervert. She's the kinder, gentler half of it. Like I said, again, we drink some beer and we just kind of let it flow. And I got to tell you, 134 episodes deep, it seems to get better every week. Like, it really is a great camaraderie. And when I say, like, I introduce her as my sister from another mister, co-hostess with the mostest. Like, we're like joined, like, she's like family now. My wife loves her and she loves her, and we love the family and each other, and it's just great. And that's what you need. You definitely need a bond and to be able to be yourself. That's good. Like, the Jeff the Shark is a bit of a character, and I'll go out some places locally. My people like kind of like, hey, it's the Shark. And now they all want him to be funny or say something crude or say something ridiculous. And a couple of beers and
Do the roar.
Exactly. And I could have said a couple of drinks and there he is. That's what he does on the show.
Yeah.
Next thing you knew, people were watching. And
I mentor a lot of younger podcasters coming in, especially in 2020. There were a ton coming in, having the time. And so a lot of them will come to me and they'll ask me questions about, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And a lot of it, when they're talking about connecting with their co-hosts, things like that, even if it's their friends, I was like, sometimes it won't work. You have to figure that out, but you have to be a team.
yes,
Like, that's what it's got. I use a lot of the sports analogies of it. Like, you've got to be a team. If you're going to do this together, you're going to have problems. Make sure you talk it out. Make sure off camera, don't worry about on camera, talk it out. Make sure you're prepping and you guys are on the same page of what you want to do right from the beginning and where you want to go. So, I use a lot of sports analogies just because I'm a sports fan in that sense. But, I think you're right. It's what you just get that rapport, and, like, if it works, keep it working.
So it's Zach, do you have anything to add to that before I ask another question? And then you all can ask questions too, because I'm mouthy and I just still keep talking. So
no, I mean, my start was pretty much the exact opposite of Mick's. If your name is not Mick Manhattan, is it okay to call you Mick, or do I got to use the full thing?
No, Mick is perfect. Fine.
Okay,
everybody calls me Mick anyway. The name actually comes from, my name is Michael, but Mick was a nickname for me growing up. So I just used that. The Manhattan part is I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, and then I lived in Manhattan for a long time, working and such. So I just stole the name. It actually stems from a character on Mystery Elephant of a really bad 40s detective that I would do.
that's
as
great.
a common pig.
I just found out that wasn't your name. Like, I had no idea. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So then it just felt like kind of moving in, and, like, again, especially with social media, kind of keeping in character helps, because, you don't want you don't want everybody coming in and kind of knowing all of your business, and more I'm having more work themed people, add me on Facebook or on social media. And it's like, you got to kind of separate the two. You got to have some privacy for the family. Mostly. I don't care about me, but for the family, you got to have a little bit of privacy. So I stick with Mick Manhattan.
No, I think it's cool. It's a great name. So good name.
And Noah body, because you got Persona too.
Right, yeah.
To get off of that too. And I finally put it together the other day when I was on your show, because I'm like, some nobodies. I'm like, nobody. I'm like, oh my God. All this time
Yeah, I was thinking that was clever when I found out your name was not actually Mick Manhattan. So I'm like, well, I go by a fake name on social media, just because it fits the theme of some nobodies. I have a show called I'm Nobody, and then my name on social media is Noabody, which is just nobody, obviously. But yeah, I was a stand-up comedian in Philadelphia, and then I moved to Colorado to actually make movies. And then when COVID got, bad, or obviously it started off bad, but when it kind of came into my world, me and my writing partner, Dylan, that were trying to make a movie, we had to transition and still learn how to be creative, but a different outlet, which is why we swerved into podcasting. We weren't trying to be podcasters. We were trying to be filmmakers. We just realized that we didn't have the knowledge or the equipment or unfortunately the clean air to make the movie that we wanted to make. So we turned a couple of our projects into audio dramas, which was great because now I learned more things about making movies through podcasting, and I've met some amazing people through this. So I'm very happy that I transitioned the way that I kind of had to. But I know a lot of people, 2020 was very bad, but unfortunately my business started, and we have 13 shows going on. So 2020 was booming for me, and that was mostly because I couldn't leave the house. So I had to learn how to push my creativity in a different way. Sure. But Mick, when you said you have a network, what does you pick shows that you would like to feature in your network, or is it something that you just keep creating things and putting them on your own channel kind of thing? What exactly does a network for podcasters, what does that entail?
Well, thank you for asking that, actually. For this, I started out as that. It started out the Scenesnob podcast, and it was just one show. And then, there was another show created with friends who were like, hey, I really want to get in on this. And I produced it all. And then I found myself hosting a lot of them, and I was like, this is not what I want to do. I don't want to keep having shows that I'm on. I love all of the shows I am on, but I was like, there's got to be a threshold. Yeah. So this past year, I should say, we've been meeting different podcast stuff. I never ask anybody to be on. I don't want to feel anybody feel pressured. Like I'm saying, hey, come on, be on that thing, But if somebody is interested, I will sit down, I'll talk with them, I'll have a meeting, and kind of show them what we do. So we have a lot of our own shows, where people, I've brought in some really talented people that I thought would thrive, and musicians, filmmakers, artists, things like that come on, and they'll be part of the show. Now we have Three Geeks podcast is one that joined up. We have Matt Talk, which is another show. There's PVD Cast is on, the Fandom Effect, and we have a few more shows that are going to be premiering soon. That's their shows. I mean, we have nothing to do with it. There's no transfer of money. They're sponsors of their sponsors. They're Patreon. We don't want anything. We just want to collaborate and work together. It helps me build up the channel that I really want to build up. It helps them because I will promote as much as I can for them. And so that, and they help by, it gives me a full schedule. So we have 2 shows Sunday, 2 shows on Monday, 2 shows on Tuesday, 2 shows on Wednesday. Thursday, there's 2 shows, which are off tonight. So we're filling in by doing something called the Pod Chatters, where podcasters can join in and we just kind of have a cross chat. Tomorrow we have 2 shows, Saturday 2 shows, and it kind of repeats all week. So I produce some of them where I'm behind the camera, and like I said, I'll run things. I do all the social media work for the Scenesnobs. I build the website for it. Always learning, of course. I'm not, jack of all trades, master of none, but I do the best I can. I'm just very fortunate to be connected with so many awesome, talented people who are helping my channel, and I'm trying to do my best to help their shows.
Yeah, that sounds so interesting because, like, I mean, kind of similar to you, I host and run about 12 shows myself. So if you would like to take submissions, I have a variety of shows. I'm just kidding. Maria, you can go ahead.
No, I was nodding my head, like especially on the jack of all trades, master of none. I think that is like the theme of creatives. We're always just like diving into something else, so we have no idea. We may know like a dot of how to do it, and we're gonna figure it all out. I think that is kind of like the theme song behind it, because there's so many things I look, I'm like, oh, that'd be interesting. Let's try that. And I have to sometimes reel myself back as a creative to realize that I only have 24 hours in a day, and really some of that sleep, we should say 8 hours of sleep, but I don't get 8 hours of sleep. So, take away the sleep, take away all the other things that I'm already having to do, adding these new things. A lot of times I have to really make myself, and I've gotten a little better at it as I've gotten older, make a list and say, well, these are great ideas, but why am I wanting to do them? Always attaching it to that why. And it's funny because I literally had just had conversations with people before, like I started these because I started out 3 new live shows this week, but I swear like 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to, my goal for this year is to do less, to just simplify and to do less. But to me, actually do less is impossible, but to be able to really only attach myself to something that has a real purpose, a real drive, and a real why. That's my version of do less, because actually doing less, I, like most creatives, again, thrive on being busy. There's definitely a threshold of too busy to where I like go into like an anxiety ridden attack. But, before that point right before that, that's like the sweet spot. And I love that spot. Do you all feel the same way, or am I just insane?
For me, I mean, there's always a desire to create and do more. But again, like my friends watch my show and they say, how about a fantasy football show? Which I'm dying to do, and that might be something. Out of the pops, that's what draws people. Like I gotta admit, I kind of stole the idea from Kevin Smith. Like he was in from his pops, and I'm like, yeah. So, and I love it, and it's a good conversation piece. So thanks, Mike. But like fantasy football show, and I'm up for that. It's something you take one day a week with, and then buddies of mine are like, how about 4 dudes smoking cigars and drinking beers? And how about a sports show? And how about you being like your ridiculous self? And I'm counting all the beers I'm drinking, and I'm like, that's about 100 beers a week. How do you handle all that?
That's a lot of beer.
That's a lot of.
It's funny developing shows, because some of the people that come to me, like, they don't have an idea of a show. They're just like, this is a topic I really like and I want to do it. And so we'll sit down and talk about it. And I got this from a very good friend of mine, this piece of advice a long time ago. He's a tattoo artist. He's a guy who tattooed me all over. And he said to me, he's like, I'm not going to I don't have a book and it's like, hey, I want that. He's like, that's not what an artist does. He goes, I'm going to sit with you. You're going to tell me what you like. We're going to develop something. He's like, we are not sitting down and tattooing right now. That's not who I am. And he'd been doing it for 18 years at that point. And he's just like, we're going to sit down. You're going to tell me what you want. We're going to, you and I are really going to look at things. He does a lot of research. Like I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so I got the TARDIS on my arm. But, he did it in an original way that to me is just beautiful. But he sat there and he was watching episodes of it. He was looking at it online, the history of it, what it does, just so that way he can create something one of a kind for me, because there's going to be tons of Doctor Who fans who have TARDIS tattoos. He wanted something when people look at it, they're like, wow, that's different. And he does that for every client. So when I'm developing a show for me, and I'm sitting down talking with somebody, I was like, listen, there's a million shows out there that do this. How are you going to be different? A lot of it, again, has to be in your characterization of what you do. But you also have to learn who you are. A good example is Mike Courtney, who just commented about the Pops. He hosts the Showboys podcast. They're not on our channel. They're a great show. I was very fortunate to be a guest on their show. But I was telling him, I was like, you guys are very, in your cadence, relaxed. I was like, you're a show I like to listen to when I'm in a relaxed mood. I can't listen to it when I'm driving, things like that. I need to be relaxed. I listen to it a lot before bed because they wind you down, but they're very, they keep you entranced in what they're talking about. It's kind of like a Dan Carlin. He hosts Hardcore History, which is another great podcast everybody should check out. And he's been doing it for years and years. But it's that cadence. Like, so if you know who you are and how you do things, like you can have different shows that are meant for different time slots, different things like that. Like, you know, it's really just about developing around the person and what they're doing, or the people, you know, I find.
Or the personalities within the person. That's what I feel like within me.
Yeah.
The layers of Maria, you know, and I think, you know, especially with the fact that I'm a business owner, you know, and coming from a professional side of things, again, I'm the rebel. You know, it's very much expected that business owners do this, you know, and it's stupid. And, you know, that was when I first started kind of coming out of my shell, you know, coming out and kind of doing things a different way. And, you know, that was one of the big pushes for my podcast, was just, I got so freaking tired of showing up to businesses and it was the same damn thing. It was, here's your mask, go ahead and put it on so you can pretend to be somebody or not, because we're all doing it. And it's just, I got fed up with it. And I got fed up with saying, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't. And, you know, why is that a thing? So I decided that I was just going to start doing my own thing. And, you know, and I think that, again, creatives kind of have this drive to be their own person anyway. And people should, you know, whether you consider yourself creative or not, people should, you know, have the drive to be their own person. And one thing I've loved about the podcasting community is it is so diverse, but yet we're all connected. And I mean, it's been kind of a wild ride on really getting that connection with people that are somehow like-minded, but completely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a great point. And one big thing I've always said, and this is, again, all advice that I've gotten throughout the years, because my big thing is go to people who know what they're doing. You know, if you go to people who know what they're doing and ask for advice, I find most people are ready to help you. I'll take that 20, Mike. He's actually going to be on the pod chatters tonight. So, like,
Mike, I'll do it for 10, Mike. My name is Mike Courtney, the super talented, creative Mike Courtney, ladies and gentlemen.
Anytime.
Jeff Perini.
For me, like, my prime directives when I'm doing any show is, and I tell everybody else doing it, I was like, entertain. You have to entertain first. Always be honest, and just always be respectful. You know, it's easy to be somebody who trashes everything, but like, try and be respectful of what your audience feels and how they may not agree with what you're saying, but at least be respectful to them if they aren't. You know, I don't want to be pessimistic in anything I do. I want to bring out the optimism, and, you know, a lot of that, and I don't do this, and I tell them too, I was like, don't do this for your friends. It's great that your friends listen, but if you want to be a successful podcast, you want to make sure that everybody wants to listen. You want to gain, like, fans. And I've been fortunate enough, you know, very few, but like, I truly, like, I remember their names. I reach out to them. I talk to them. That's a part of this. Like, that's who I am. So Mick Manhattan may be a character, but he's still me. Like, I want to reach out to them, and I want to, you know, become friendly with them because they are taking their time out to listen to what I do. So
I just feel left out. I don't have a nickname. So now I'm like rethinking my whole life.
It's different for women. I think Zack, we talked about that Sunday, about how you can't just, your co-host didn't have a nickname. He's like, I don't have a nickname. You can't just give yourself one either. It's got to be given to you. And it seems to be more a guy thing with the nicknames than the women. Because I've called Jewel, I called Jewel the babe, the hottie, and all that. She's like, no, I'm Jewel Tatey, dude. That's it. I'm like, all right, that's it.
Yeah. That's because those aren't nicknames.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're actually pretty bad nicknames.
Yeah, those are nicknames. That's like borderline sexual harassment. That's where you kind of go like draw the line. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Maria, what you were saying earlier, I agree completely. And one of the reasons that Dylan is such a great partner for me is because I throw so many ideas at him. Like, I want to do a show about this. Like, we don't do a movie review show. Let's do this. And we don't do this kind of show. Let's do this. And he's like, no, let's just work on what the content is. Let's make sure we're doing the right thing first. Let's not overwhelm ourselves just to have more shows. So yeah, I constantly have that itch to do more, but he helps me rein it in and perfect the shows that we have instead of just doing more. So I don't know if I can do more.
Yeah, I actually really like that philosophy of what you're saying, because my first year for me was put the content out, build the channel, and now that I am, and I have other shows coming in, and I've built it in that way. This year, I'm focusing on monetizing and also focusing on making it better. Focus on making the content as good as possible for the audience. And I've always tried to do that, but now that's my main focus. Like it kind of switched. It was like I'm not going to go all content. I'm going to focus on how good can we make this. So
yeah, we were the same way. We had so many ideas for all these projects, and our first project we put together was called Silicon Angels, and it's a found footage style show about people that find sex robot IT calls, and like the and the calls that they got, and they have to go through all those, how these guys have problems with their robots. And we put that out because we're like, oh, this is interesting. Let's just build our catalog. Let's build our portfolio. But looking back on it, I was like, man, if I just gave myself a couple more months to work on that, it'd have been such a better show now. So yeah, it's one of those things that experience can only really teach you. But yeah, it's something I'm focusing on as well. It's like making myself better instead of making more stuff. So I'm glad you also said that.
I think there's a fine line for sure.
Yeah, it sounds strange to say that some people say it's simple or cheating, but we kind of found ourselves perfecting the art of chaos, not to steal your name, but the art of chaos. Like we kind of treat ourselves like a low budget show. Like, oh man, if we only had a producer, if we only had somebody doing the artwork, and this would be better if I only had somebody helping us out. So we kind of make a joke of it. Her cousin is our intern. She gives us a lot of help on it, but she became part of the show too, off on the side. And a lot of people say going live is suicide. Don't ever go live. I love it. I think it's hilarious. It gets a couple thousand views each week because people are saying, hey, 8 o'clock at night, I'm ready to wind down and laugh and relax. And I scroll YouTube or I scroll Facebook. I see your face and I know it's time to just party and be goofy. So that it became kind of that way. In the beginning, we were just audio. We were very monotone. It was okay. We have this guest on. Let's talk about this. And now I'm like, bam, look at my house. Bam, look at my basement. And bam, I'm drinking beer. I got weird costumes on. And people are going to like it. Like they ask, every time I see somebody that watches the show, they ask my wife, is he like that off camera? And she says, no, he's worse. So that I love that.
That's perfect. Yeah. And I mean, again, but you created that character out of your personality, and that's a wonderful thing. Yeah. I mean, that's what we try to do here is like, we used to call ourselves, we used to say for our motto was like, embrace the absurdity.
I like that.
And now we're calling ourselves the MCU of unremarkable people. We may not be remarkable, but we'll have fun. You'll like us. For sure. So I love it though. I can't imagine doing anything else.
When I first started doing it, when I started coming more out of my shell and taking the show over and bringing in Jewel, and I make my crude comments about certain celebrities and who's hot and all that. And my mother, God rest her soul, she was still alive in the beginning. And one day she calls me and I said, Mom, did you watch? She says, you know what? I can't watch you. You're so crude and offensive. I can't watch you. And I said, I'm doing it right then. If I can offend my mother, I've got something.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, as far as Mick, with acting and all the producing and all that stuff, is that something that, I mean, other than with your shows that you mentioned, is that something you're still doing? Well, I mean, nobody's really probably doing it, but
filmmaking side of things, I've really moved away from. They've tried to pull me back in, but I'm holding strong. Now, I do a lot more consulting and mentoring of younger producers who are just starting out, indie guys. I'm working with a few right now here in Virginia who have some movies coming up, and I also do a lot of panels, and I'm judging. I've been judging for the past year a bunch of film festivals and things like that. So. And I'll do script reads and things like that. So like, that's how I'll keep kind of into it. But, this has become more my focus. This is more my passion now. I loved being a filmmaker. It was the one job I always said, it's a job I can't wait to get out of at the end of the night, but I can't wait to get back to the next morning. because it will drive you nuts. You'll have 20-hour days, 6-7 days a week, and you're always looking for work. That's how it is. And I loved it, but I fell in love with this, and I was like, I need to focus on building myself, my brand, the things I want to do. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But yeah, there will always be my one foot will always be in the door of filmmaking, like just to even help in any way I can.
Do you feel that?
And want to act ever again? Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, and I mean, Zach and Jeff, I don't know if you've got anything to say with all that, but I was also got curious on, do you feel that a lot of people have easily transitioned from, I don't know if you say easily, but have they transitioned from, filmmaking to podcasting? Do you feel that that's kind of been a natural progression of things?
I was surprised how close all of this is to filmmaking, just even in philosophies. There's a lot of it. Like, I love Zack's idea of, dramatizing, audio dramatizations. I mean, that's where we started. That was like when radio started, that was the big thing. And I love hearing that coming back. And I think people should do more of it, for sure. I don't know if you know Joe Bob Briggs. He has a show, The Last Drive-In, and he had said it, and it was funny because he said it a year after. I was like, why aren't people doing radio shows? Like, even taking old radio show serials and just doing them podcasts. And then he said it, and like people were like blowing up ready to do it, and I'm like, this should be done. I was like, that people are remaking so much. Why aren't podcasters doing that? I had the idea, and I was like, I can't take any more on right now. So I would love to see other people do it, though. I think that would be a wonderful idea, or writing original stuff. So I love that you are doing that, Zach. That's awesome. But that's where I say, like, it's very close to filmmaking, is because of how creative you can get with this, how much it's a collaboration. I always tell people, I've run into podcasts who are like, I'm going to take you down. And then I'm laughing because I'm like, I just want to collaborate. I am not, none of you are my competition. And
I've not ever run into that. See, that's one of the things I haven't seen.
I've had it quite a bit in the past year alone.
Wow.
Like, I've had a lot of people seem to try and take me down. And it's just like, I'm like, you know what? You're not my competition. I'm not here competing with you. I'm here trying to make myself better. And if I can bring people up with me, I will do that. I will collaborate. I'll do whatever I have to do. And not just whatever I have to do, whatever I want to do, like doing this is fun for me. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking to new people. Why would I want to fight with anybody on this? I don't, we can share viewers or not, you may be something completely different, who cares? Like, there's no reason to try and take each other down.
Yeah, I'll bring this into you, Mick, because I know that I've discussed it with Marie, and I know Zach knows as well. Me and a couple of partners are in the beer business, craft beer business. We make our own beer, and we've been selling it, and we're building a tap room down the line. When we got into it and started going brewery to brewery, they all said, sounds great. You want to be our next door neighbor? And we're like, your neighbor? The guy, you're going to understand, it's a community. Yeah. And the more people come at you, and to have some right in a row brings bus tours, and it becomes a learning. Hey, we do this. How we make it with this. Well, let's try it, or collaborate. Like Phil's brewery and my brewery will make a beer together, and that's how podcasting is. Community. I've been on Maria's show. I've been on Zach's show. Maria's scheduled to come on mine. Tina has been on mine, and I'd like to welcome you guys in the future too. I love bringing people in because everybody's bite is different. I had a blast on Zach's show Sunday because it was so new to me. It was just like creating, and some people think, well, I don't get it. I really didn't get it until I started getting into the flow. I'm like, this is really fun. Everybody's got a different take. Maria's got a great approach to it too. Like, you call it behind the scenes, and that's awesome because it's learning the real people. Everybody's got something that nobody knows at all. And between the four of us, like the three of you, I'm sure do it 100% different than me, but for the same kind of idea to entertain. So it's great. And like I said, it's better, much stronger as a community than a competition. Yeah. People at Netflix don't compete. I mean, Star Wars doesn't really compete with Star Trek. They, in a certain way the fans do, but as a whole, it's, hey, this is my movie. Come see my movie and my history.
That's great.
Yeah, we started our stuff at the first, like, hey, we're going to do podcasting. Let's try to be different because we're from, restaurant and that kind of stuff. We're like, it is a struggle. You got to fight each other. So when we started podcasting, it's like, hey, how do we be aggressively different so people cannot say that we're in the same league, which is why we created Silicon Angels, which is why we're creating our Choose Your Own Adventure podcast, which should be dropping pretty soon. And then when it came to
is that based off the book? Not to cut you off.
No, we wrote an original story. I wrote 17 different endings to it. We put together 26 episodes. I voiced it myself. It's called Create Your Own Podventure. So it is a new thing. But yeah, what we wanted to do was just be different. And even with the talk show, and Jeff, you were on the show last week, and Maria, I'm going to ask you very soon to be on my show. But we wanted a talk show where people really didn't want to listen as much as be on it. So the show itself is more of a creative adventure that you kind of want to be on and be part of. But unfortunately, it is kind of weird to listen to. But we just wanted everything that we did to be slightly different than what everyone else is doing. Even our even our review show, which is I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag because it's turned into something different. But what we tried to do was we wanted to do a review show so that people got our personality, but we wanted to not actually review real podcasts because we wanted to be mean about things. So we actually created 7 new podcasts every single week, took snippets and produced them and then reviewed those shows. So it's called a podcast show where we actually create 7 very bad podcasts and then review those shows. But people didn't realize that it was fake, and they're like, "Oh, this is so good for the community. Can you please review our show?" And I'm like, "This is not real. Like, I don't want to do this." Yeah. So now I started doing one real one so that people because I didn't want people to be like, "You're only mean to podcasts." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't expect that." I just wanted to be like a kind of like a sketch comedy podcast where we just create weird stuff. So yeah. So I
a disclaimer intro, all of the podcasts you hear, the following are not real.
Well, we kind of had like an Andy Kaufman aspect to all of our shows. Like our show Silicon Angels, the way that started was I created a human being, and his name is Simon Vanderbland, and he has a Facebook account, he has a YouTube channel, he has an email address, and he responds to a lot. He's got 2,000 friends on Facebook, and he actually started this YouTube channel where he was breaking apart computers. So if you look up Simon Vanderbland, he is a person that created this show, that created this podcast. But then the thing is that he started getting credit for it, and we're like, "Well, this is our show." Like, well, I don't. We messed up. So we kind of had to backpedal that one. And then with the podcast, we thought, "Oh, cool. People will just understand that it's like fake shows," and we just wanted the ruse to go along. But they didn't. They're like, "Wow, you guys find the weirdest shows. Like, how do you find a show about somebody trying to eat boogers?" And we're like, "Oh, come on, people! Like, we're just trying to be funny." So yeah. So I'm glad, Mick, that you're looking for more fake stuff because that's all that we do is a bunch of weird fake stuff.
Oh my god,
that's creativity right there. I mean, you're talking about creative. That's you're. That's what I love about podcasting. It's becoming the new norm of replacing television in a way. Like, of course, you're going to have the wonderful television shows that Netflix and all of them are producing, but look what we're getting for entertainment. People are running to YouTube. People are running to podcasts to do this. And it's because it's new, it's original. They can find what they like. It's not just having to flip through the channels and hopefully you find something you want to watch. Like, you can actually go and type in podcast about this, podcast about that. And I think being creative is such a huge play in this. Like, I was doing a review show, like you said, and it was just a movie review. I'd review new movies as they came out. And I got so bored with doing it because it's just me talking to a camera. I'm like, what am I doing? Who cares about 5-minute, guy just sitting here telling? Everybody does that. So I changed it up, changed up the format. And now in the movies that we're doing, like we did Tenet, and I invited a friend of mine who is a martial artist and an editor to come in. So we talked visual effects, we talked, the editing of it, the sound, and the martial arts in it. We did Soul. I brought in a friend of mine who is a musician and works a lot in jazz. So he talks about what the imagery and the music was for him. Wonder Woman, I'm bringing in a friend of mine who's a museum curator, and she's going to talk about that and the feminist side of what Wonder Woman means to her and pop culture art. Promising Young Woman, I'm bringing in a rape survivor to talk about the realism of, how men are acting in that, as a woman. Like, is this realistic to you? And the feelings that this woman is going throughout the movie. So like, I feel like changing it up in that way now, it's not just reviewing, but it's also giving people insight to what, not what I think. I can tell you from a filmmaking side, like what I think, but I want to know what the stories are telling people, or how they're reaching out to people.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it. Like, with podcasting, you were talking earlier that people can just, get on there and pick whatever. I love it just because you can get on there and listen to something to build your business. Then get on there and listen to something. Maybe you're having problems with one of your kids. And I mean, literally, it's like a smorgasbord of options, and that include entertainment and all these other things together, that it's literally a one-stop shop, that you're wanting to learn something, you're wanting advice on something, you're wanting to just be entertained. It's all right there. And, that's been kind of a big thing for me because, I consider myself an accidental podcaster. I've even got in some of my bios, I'm an accidental podcaster, because I am. I never set out to be a podcaster. I honestly didn't really listen to a lot of podcasts. I just didn't. I like listen to audiobooks and all that kind of stuff all the time, or music, because I've been in the music, for a long time. So it's like, those were the things I listened to. I'd probably listened to like 2 podcasts before when I started my podcast. And the only reason I started is because somebody said, you should start a podcast. And I was like, okay. It's kind of like, it was literally pretty much that simple, because I had been doing live speaking engagements, and it was just, to me, it seemed like a natural transition, but I was not a filmmaker. So the tech side of it kicked my ass. I had no idea. I hired somebody. You'll find this hilarious. I hired somebody to like record the stuff for me. So he had like the professional camera, the professional audio stuff, and I'm paying him to record all this stuff, be with a guest. So then he like does all this content and hands it to me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. Like, I had no freaking clue even what to do. So I paid all this money to have all this stuff produced, and I'm just like holding it. Like, I had no idea like how you distribute. Like, how does it get all these places? Like, no clue. Like, no clue, because that's not my background at all. So, it's funny that, even somebody, and I think it's important to kind of say that kind of stuff, because, I think sometimes people think, well, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Well, if you're creative and you're willing to screw up, fall on your face, you're willing to admit if you need help, you're willing, to do all that, you can do it. And I think, I do see a lot of people talking about the rules of this and the rules of that. And I don't know how you all feel about it, but I'm kind of one of those people that feel like rules are meant to be broken. And, if that's a rule for you, yourself, your situation, great, that's your rule. But for me, I'm actually one of those people that's like, oh, that's a rule. Well, watch me break that. Tell me there's a rule and I will find a way to break that. So
our goal all along was, everybody's got their niche, and mine has always been like, I always had a fascination with a radio show, and from watching guys like Howard Stern and even Rogan. I mean, Rogan became a superstar. It more or less is a radio show that we now film. So we're more or less doing radio, like we play tunes from our guests, we talk to our guests, and even sometimes my mouth kind of Howard Stern's the guest a little bit. You got to feel them out first before you go that route. And that's the thing, like I watch him film his serious show, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, that's what I like. It's just a basic show where topics come up, things through your day come up, you're talking, you're paying homage to the stars on there, you're talking entertainment topics, and you're just freewheeling, and we're lucky enough now to stream it. That's always been my goal, and that's what I enjoy. And I think a lot of people have to watch still and tell me, but I think we do a pretty darn good job of it, right?
And I think a lot of one thing I will say, and it's the same for anything. Yeah, anybody can start a podcast, but I think it's important that people reflect too, because sometimes it's not for everybody. And I found that, I've had hosts leave and stuff, and they're just like, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I will. You can't. There's nothing wrong with that. But also, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe what we're talking about isn't for you. There's many topics that people can do. Like, my wife started a cookie company about a year ago, and like, she does custom design cookies, and she's very good at it. But I see where she was last year versus where she is this year, and it's miles different. So I tell her, I'm like, you have gotten to a point where, this has become your thing. Like, this is what you love doing. This is what you need to work towards and keep pushing this company. But then there's like, she has friends who just never really got there, and like, their passion isn't in it. It's just, it was something fun for them, but turning it into a business wasn't for them. So,
Yep.
She tells them, like, I've talked to them before. It's like, this may not be for you. Like, find something that is, like if you're going to do a podcast, but you really love talking, you really love doing the show, but maybe geek podcasts aren't for you, or you find it too much work. What else do you like? Do you like sports? Do you want to talk about self-help? Do you want to do this, that, or the other thing? Explore. I think that's the biggest thing, is explore what you can do.
Absolutely. And I think that could be said with anything, because again, most creatives that I know habitually hop around from, creative thing to creative thing to creative thing. We like to just try new things. And there's been plenty of times that I try new things and it's like, all right, this is definitely not freaking for me. And I have, I now have no problem stopping. I used to think, well, crap, I've already started. I have to do it now, but you don't. It's okay to be like, well, that was fun for today. I sucked at it. I don't want to do it, whatever, and move on. And, I think that's kind of, that opens up just the ability to go ahead and try new things. Like you said, explore it, experience it, reflect on, how you do feel about it, and then make your decisions accordingly.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and also do it for yourself. Don't try to get a lot of listens. Like if it's something that you're super into and it's a podcast that you're looking for and you can't find it and you're like, I can do that, then just do it, and that's cool. Just be into it, and don't go into it looking for money, because creativity, like I said at the beginning, it has to come from passion. I don't have a passion in painting. Can I paint something? Maybe, but if I'm forced to sit down and paint something, it's not going to be something good. I like to create stories. So for me, that's what I do. And I know that people can't do exactly what I do. So it is about passion, but just do what you love. Don't just do something because you think podcasting is successful or I want to do what you're into. Passion first, I think.
It's perfect.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And I always tell the story and we always laugh, but when I sat down with Jewel, I was on a podcast with another person. He was kind of running the show. He was in New York. He called all the shots. And I listened back. I'm like, man, I was so quiet. That's not really me. I'm used to being the lead voice. So when he gave it up, I said, all right, this is what I want to do. I want male, female for different points of view. And I got to find somebody who's definitely into it. Now, I've told Maria there were some very attractive women who says, oh, a show. I want to be on a show because they want to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine. But when a friend of mine said, hey, would you mind talking to my fiance's sister? She's got a degree in communications. I'm like, all right. And I sat down with Jewel, and immediately I was in love with her ideas. She said, I'm all about it. I want to come on. I want to talk about topics. And she said, the big thing I want to do is make it a Philly friendly show, not being all Philly, but Philly friendly. And let's get after local musicians, indie musicians, people who deserve to be heard, people with a decent following that could just use a little bump. Maria was nice enough to bring on one of the bands we had on last week and communicate and try to get them on her show. That's what it's all about, getting these people that work hard, like us. We all work hard at it. They're out there working hard on it too, and they would love the push. And a lot of people are like, wow, we're going to be on your show. Like, how flattering. But from the get-go, Jewel's like, this is what I want to do. Like, the look in her eye was like passion. Like, she feels it. And yeah, we're not perfect. We don't make a ton of money on it. We're not billions of listeners, but we're there. And she believes it as well as I do.
And that's a point. Yeah. And I love that. And, Mick, just because we're getting close on time here, just can you kind of just give a shout out of where people can find all your stuff, find all the things, and then Zach and Jeff, you can lead us out too.
Yeah. Thank you again for having me on today. This has been so much fun. I can't wait to check out everything and connect with you guys some more. I just want to say, go over to the Scenesnobs.com. That's where our hub is for everything. You can go to our social media, find our channels there. We're on YouTube, all that stuff. So, but all the links are there. Our full schedule is right on the homepage, so you can go jump right in and see all our shows and when they're on, and connect with us. Please like, follow, subscribe. Let us know what you think about the shows, stuff like that. We always want to, get better. So I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can find everything that I do at Some Nobodies. You can go anywhere you like and type in the word Some Nobodies, and you'll see roughly 15 things that I do, including Talking Upstream for IBM TV, which comes out every Sunday. We also have a Twitching Upstream version of that, which comes out usually every Tuesday. We do a podcast show, and Silicon Angels. Check out anything we do, Some Nobodies, and also expect a message from me pretty soon.
And then you definitely want to give that special shout out to Simon what is his name? Vanderland.
Simon Vanderland.
Special shout out to him. He's great. All right.
I am adding that Facebook account as soon as I get off here.
I am too. I wrote it down because I was like, yes.
So again, we are the Yo Show. Facebook, we can be found at the Stoop Radio Network. That was the previous. They won't let us change the name. So Facebook is the Stoop Radio Network. On YouTube, you can look up the Yo Show. Same as Twitch, the Yo Show. Instagram is the Yo Show 215. Our website, www.theyoshow215.com. We air live every Wednesday night, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. A humongous shout out and thank you to my platonic love, the amazing Miss Jewel Tatey. When this comes out, I want you to know that I can't do it without you. I love you dearly as pretty much my partner in crime. You two guys, terrific today. Thanks, Mick and Zach. And, of course, as always, thank you, Maria. Female Jeff, thank you for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It should be even more creepy. My dad's name's Jeff. My brother's name's Jeff. So I'm like surrounded by the land of Jeffs. So there's that. So that's all right. It happens. It's fine. So, and I'm Maria Daniels with Successfully Chaotic, and this is Talk Creative to Me. And our hope is to be able to get all the creatives to be the safe place for you to come and share all your things, all your ideas in an amazing, creative, judgment-free zone. Very zen. So until later, we will see you later. And I need to make an end-out video, so you have to watch our awkward end because I haven't done that. So bye.